Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome everybody back for another edition, UFC 300 edition of Cageside with John Morgan, fresh off the heels of WrestleMania. Me and John we're going to tango on this podcast today. And there is an eclipse today as well. That's why we peek behind the curtain. We're recording a little bit early because the eclipse is happening right out here in the south where I'm at, so I need to be able to check it out. But UFC 300 this week, the man to help me break it all down, follow him on X, John Morgan _MMA. He is John Morgan. What up, man?
We're not getting as much of the eclipse out here in Las Vegas as you are in your neck of the woods, but we're getting a little taste of it. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna be checking that out here in a little bit as well. But what we are getting is UFC 300 right here at T-Mobile Arena. And it's funny, man. You and me, look, we get excited talking about this sport regardless, right? No matter what's going on. We love MMA, talking about it, all that. What do you always say? When it's pay-per-view week, things step up a notch. You know what I mean? You feel a little bit more excitement. There's more going on. And now it's UFC 300. And, man, I just got the media schedule for this week, which is, I mean, everybody on the card is being made available to media, both at the media day and at the press conference, which just goes to show you how loaded this dang card is. UFC felt bad about keeping anybody of those people off the schedule. They had to bring everybody out because this card is stacked.
So I had a revelation today when I'm starting to prep, like, what are we going to talk about today? Let's dive into some facts and figures. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to throw that all out the window. It's going to just be organic. But I had a revelation about why I think the perception is that UFC 300 isn't this monster that that people were hoping. Not me or you. We've expressed it over the last 3 weeks about why those people are stupid. But I came to the revelation because I don't know which is the best fight on the card. I don't know what fight I'm most excited for. There's a lot of things that are saying every fight is just awesome, but there's not that one fight, right? There's not that Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir, right? Yep. There's not that one fight that everybody is looking to. Do you think that has something to do with maybe people saying like, whatever?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a great way to verbalize it. And because it felt like to me, the reason I understand why, I think people were setting their expectations in the wrong place. Like you said, I think people were, is Brock going to come back? Is Ronda going to come back? Is Khabib going to come back? I mean, those are the questions I kept hearing. And to be honest with you, that's something you would do at like WrestleMania, right? When you can script the action, you can bring back somebody that's 50 years old because you're not worried about exactly what's going to happen to them. In real fighting, you can't do that. And so I think the expectations were a little bit weird to begin with, but I think you nailed it with that because there's all these fights and we could talk about, I mean, you and I could literally sit down and spend time breaking down every fight on the card because there's implications with everything that's happening on here. The number of ranked fighters, the number of title fights, the number of number one contender fights, but there's not that one that's like, that's the fight I've been waiting for. You know, look, had we gotten John Jones versus Stipe Miocic, maybe that would change a little bit. Although I'll be honest with you, I feel like a lot of people are looking more forward to John Jones and Tom Aspinall if that fight could come together. You know what I mean? So, you know, if Conor McGregor was on here, I mean, that would amp up the star power, right? No doubt about it. Biggest star in the history of the sport. But you're right. I just don't think there's that one fight that like, I have been waiting for this fight. I've been talking about this fight. I can't believe this fight finally came together. And I think that is part of the problem. But I mean, this card, so I get it. I think I understand that. But I think if that's what you're thinking, you got to step back and be like, yeah, but come on, look at this lineup top to bottom. Right.
So going back, we kind of said what fights are, low key our favorite fights of the night that we're looking forward to. We've done that in the past couple weeks.
Right.
And I want to this card, like we're going to go through the main card. Okay. But I want to start with let's pick the early prelims. Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
Let's talk about, I want to go like an early prelim, then the prelims, and then we go to the main card. That we never do that on a pay-per-view. That's how stacked this is that we can literally break down the curtain jerker of the night. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, I'll start. That's the fight I'm most looking forward to on the prelims. This card is so ridiculously stacked that we can break down prelim or early prelim, then the entire main card. Right.
And it wouldn't just be flexing just to show that we know, it's not like, hey, we're going to prove to you that this fighter that you've never heard of, but we've been following them on the regional scene. So we're going to break it down. It wouldn't be a flex. It would just be like, this is worth your time in talking about. There's no question.
Deiveson Figueiredo, Coby Garbrandt is the curtain jerker opening fight. Nobody's going to be in the building fight at UFC 300. Get out of here.
And it's sad. I hate to say it, but at 3:00 in the afternoon, I will say that unfortunately Vegas is a very late arriving crowd, right? There's just a lot of things to do. I will say Miami is a late arriving crowd too. There's a lot of things to do in Miami, right? So there's a lot of things to do in Las Vegas. They'll be there for me. I am anxious to see, actually. I wonder if that'll change a little bit because we've never had a lineup like this. Will this encourage people? Now, we know the ultra VIPs, they're going to be hanging out in the back. We know they're going to be hanging out in the hospitality suites, chilling. They're going to come out later. But I do wonder if it'll get people in their seats a little bit earlier because if you're watching at home, man, there's no reason not to be tuned in from fight number one because, as you said it, Deiveson Figueiredo, I mean, the run at bantamweight now looked effective early on, and now we're going to see if he can. Meanwhile, Coby Garbrandt, back-to-back wins, right? A career that, man, everybody was worried. Does he still have it? Look, let's be honest. What were the questions? Is the chin gone? Can he still in there? And now, man, this is an incredibly intriguing fight. So right out the gate, I mean, that is a phenomenal fight to start the night off.
Well, I think the big thing is coming off of 2 wins, he's healthy again.
Mm-hmm.
And being healthy again, like, not only are you physically able to do things, the only question is that speed still there. I think that's the only question. But if you're physically healthy, that means you're physically able, and then probably that speed is at least better or more comparable to his bantamweight title run. So this is, and I think there's going to be a size advantage here. So I think he has a lot going for him in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for it. I mean, Cody, it's crazy. I was just looking at the age because I wasn't sure. I was like, how old is Coby Garbrandt these days?
Yeah.
32 years old. The man, I mean, he's still right there in his athletic prime, but he had such success so young,
Younger than Figueiredo.
That's crazy. It's crazy. And we think of him as, but listen, he had the issues, he had the knockouts, and that's real. That's a real problem, right? I mean, that's a real thing that's happened, but I think he's kind of adjusted his fighting style a little bit and understands, look, I have to be a little bit more defensive. I have to be a little more sound in my evasion because I can't trust on the fact that I can just take these shots. And it's adjusted the way he's cool. I know, he had some issues in his personal life as well. And I know that, that's not always the most fun thing to talk about when you break down a fight. But man, how it is. If your head's not in the game because you're thinking about other things that are going on in real life, man, that stuff steps in the way of your being able to perform. So interesting. Now, I look at the reach stats as well. Crazy because Deiveson Figueiredo, despite moving up, Deiveson actually has a 2.5 reach advantage over Coby Garbrandt, 2.5 inches, 68 inches to 65.5. So that could certainly factor in as well. You think about the grappling that Deiveson Figueiredo brings to the table, although Coby Garbrandt, a very established wrestler as well. So this is a phenomenal fight, man. I mean, you really can't ask for more to start things off. And man, fireworks.
So here's now this is if I'm going to go out on the line and say, there's a sleeper on this card. Like, honestly, in my opinion, Deiveson Figueiredo minus 340, Coby Garbrandt plus 270. That is the sleeper for me on this whole card. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Figueiredo is so good at, especially in the lower weight class, of kind of imposing a will, making it a very, poetic brawl.
Yep.
Guess what? He's running into, theoretically, the bigger guy who is beautiful at that as well. Hits like a Mack truck, and it's going to take one. He's got that knockout power, right? So in that chaos that Figueiredo likes to bring, I don't see Coby Garbrandt taking too many back steps to that. No. And it's only going to take one real good crack. That is the dog to take on this card, and that's why I picked this fight to kind of go over.
I like that. I know it was funny because I hadn't seen the line. Well, I had, but it had been a while since I'd taken a look at it. So I was actually pulling that up just as you were mentioning it. And it kind of shocked me to remember that that's where it had been set at. I had forgotten that it was that wide of a line because I agree with you. This to me is a much more competitive fight. And for exactly the reasons that you said. I think you nailed it perfectly. When you talk about Deiveson Figueiredo as a flyweight, he was the physically imposing guy, right? He was the one that kind of came in and bullied people, right? But that we see that when you move up a division, it's really hard to still be the bully when you're moving up a weight class because at that point everybody's bigger, and then they've seen guys your size, they've seen guys with your power, and that's going to be the case here with Coby Garbrandt. So at the end of the day, do I still think Deiveson Figueiredo probably should be the favorite in this fight? Yeah, I think he probably should be the favorite, but you're exactly right. You're looking for one shot, and Cody's got that, right? I mean, and it's not like he's outmatched everywhere. We always, that guy has a puncher's chance. When you say that, normally what you're saying is, he's pretty much overmatched.
He has to get lucky to win.
He's got to get lucky. Anything can happen in an MMA fight. Anybody can get clipped on the chin. Coby Garbrandt can absolutely catch this. So I love that as an underdog play as well, man. I really do, because that's to think about that you can get Coby Garbrandt at those kind of odds again in any matchup. That's pretty impressive. So I like that. I do favor Deiveson, but I like Cody's chances as that big of a dog for sure.
All right, so that was my early prelim matchup that I wanted to kind of go over. Do you got a prelims that you want to go over? I mean, Bobby Green, Jim Miller, Andrade Rodriguez, Jalin Turner. Moicano, Jalin Turner and Moicano is still on the early prelims for crying out loud.
It's amazing. So Bobby Green, Jim Miller, I love. Obviously, man, you're talking about, to me, legends of the game. I mean, Jim Miller, a future Hall of Famer, no question about that. Bobby Green, maybe not a Hall of Famer, but absolutely a fan favorite. Like, you want to tune in for a Bobby Green fight. You want to tune in for a Bobby Green interview. I did see a tweet the other day. So Jim Miller, for those that know, he actually kind of put in a request for Bruce Buffer to say Jim effing Miller, although saying it out, right? Because that's kind of been his unofficial nickname over the years given to him by Joe Silva. And Bruce Buffer was kind of like, all right, well, maybe I'll look into that. Apparently, ESPN said, hey, man, we don't want you saying that. This is going to be on our airways. This is not pay-per-view. It's a prelim, so don't say it. I saw a random Twitter user the other day, and I apologize I don't have the tweet in front of me to give him credit, but they said, what if Bruce Buffer just left a pause so that the whole crowd could yell it out in that little space as they introduced Jim Miller? I think that's a brilliant idea. Just leave a little so all the crowd can say effing and give Jim Miller the request they want. So I love that fight. Jessica Andrade, Marina Rodriguez, number 5 versus number 6 in the division. I mean, these are the two of the best in a great division at strawweight. I love it. But you know what I would really love to get your thoughts on is Jalin Turner versus Renato Moicano, because I love both these guys, number one. I think they're both incredible people. I got a chance to call some fights with Renato Moicano, and anytime I share the mic with somebody, automatically I just want to see them do well. But I mean, I think Renato has become a fan favorite, man, because of his personality. I mean, his skills, of course, but his personality as well. But this was another one, too, that I was a little surprised when I looked at the line here. Jalin Turner, I'm seeing as high as like a minus 240, minus 250. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit surprised to see that. I think I understand the logic behind it. I think I understand why it's there. But I was a little bit surprised. But I'm wondering if maybe I'm having my co-commentator bias in there, that I'm a little surprised to see that. So does that line shock you, or do you feel like that's a good price for that fight?
It doesn't shock me. It doesn't. And here's why. Speed kills. Speed kills.
Yep.
Especially somebody who's hard to take down. Right? That's the fight. Can you get on the inside? Can you withstand that force coming at you with that speed, getting in onto the inside? Because I think he has the advantage on the ground. I think. But I'm going to go out and say, Turner has the speed and the striking advantage just by default with the speed he operates.
Right. He really does. And of course, I mean, obviously he's got that insane reach. I mean, 6'3" in the lightweight division. I mean, he's a tough matchup for anybody in the division, right? Because nobody stands that tall. And you look at the reach, it's a 5-inch reach advantage. The leg reach there as well. He's got those long kicks as well. So I see it. I definitely see it. That one stood out to me, but I understand where you're coming from, and I think you're probably being accurate, man. I'm looking at some of the stats here. 6.02 landed strikes per minute for Jalin Turner. Man, he is really good. I think Renato Moicano is going to have to get this one. So I'm going to be – this is another one, too. There's so many – I love both those guys, man. You know how it is when there's guys you just really like both people, and you're like, I don't even know. I can't even cheer for somebody.
No, and listen, I've never had any interaction with Moicano, but when he was commentating with you, you're like, dude, this guy had personality that nobody knew he had, right?
Yep.
And so, like, this could be a fight that really propels him to be able to see that. Now, Turner, and Gamrot did it, and his other likes, Hooker, I believe it was Hooker. Was it Dan Hooker he lost to? No.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, if you can get into that bully zone on him and get it out of the real finesse, I'm at distance, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to jump out, I'm going to land. If you can do that on him, then that is the path to victory. Then the takedowns become easier. Then the ground game is there for you. So it's going to be interesting to see. But as you and I both know, we've been around the sport for ages. Speed kills. And he's got speed for days, man. I mean, just ask Bobby Green.
Crazy, man. That was an insane performance. But we'd never seen that to Bobby Green, man. That was amazing. And yeah, you take a look at it with Jalin Turner, man. I'm looking at his record right now. 6-2 in his last 8, all 6 of those wins via finish, and the 2 losses via split decision, as you said, aforementioned Dan Hooker and Mateusz Gamrot. So split decisions in both those results. I mean, yeah, the more you really dig into it and think about it, it probably is an accurate line. When I first saw it kind of stood out to me. I'm like, man, they're counting out my boy Renato Money Moicano there. He shows up in big spots, and Renato wants money. So big opportunity for sure.
But would you venture to say that Moicano probably has the poise to deal with this?
I think that's why he definitely does. That's why I'm excited about it. I think it's a good matchup because you are right. I don't think Renato Moicano wins a kickboxing fight here. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to get this inside, work in the clinch, get this thing to the ground. As you said, I think he does have an advantage there, but that's easier said than done with a guy like Jalin Turner for sure. But you're right, man. As far as having the right mentality, the enormity of the moment, UFC 300, everybody's going to be feeling it all week long, right? Even though it's crazy because they're on the prelims, right? But they're still going to be at the media day. They're going to be at the press conference. They're going to have the understanding of, how big this event is. They're going to want to show off. That's for sure. So Money Moicano has the mentality for the moment, but yeah, it's still a fist fight against a very tough dude. So I'm excited for that one. Again, you nailed it a couple weeks ago when you were like, what if you just took the early prelims and then took a headliner, put it on top of it? I mean, is that a pay-per-view? Yes, it's still a pay-per-view card. I mean, that's how good this is. It's crazy.
I have to say this because I was meaning to bring it up on an earlier podcast. I just never got the opportunity. So I talked to Kerry Hatley specifically about that Jalin Turner, Bobby Green stoppage. Mm-hmm. And you know what he told me? He told me that while Bobby Green was blocking with the one hand and posting a couple times, he was talking to Kerry Hatley saying, I'm good.
Bobby Green's the man. I love watching that guy fight.
Like when I just got to go back because I defended Kerry Hatley that day, that next day when we recorded the podcast. I'm defending now. Fighter, if you're protecting yourself enough to know taking a shots and saying, hey, Kerry, I'm good. Like, I think the benefit of the doubt still needs to be given to Kerry Hatley on that one. So
I love it. That is a great little insight there. I did not know that. I believe it though. Bobby Green's death. Bobby Green from it's a silly thing, but to me, he's got the best entrance into the cage in the game, right? Where he does the leaping forward roll into the cage every single time. He'll run up the stairs and do that. I love that, man. That's the dude's got personality, man. I love it. That's a great fight, man. God,
all right,
early prelims, bro. Early prelims. That'll all be happening before 5:00 Pacific.
Okay, it's going to be hard to choose a prelim to kind of dive into, but I think we have to. Holly Holm and Kayla Harrison. I think we have to get into that, right? That's the one we have to do. I know I want to touch on Calvin Kattar and Aljo for sure, but we have to start with Harrison and Holly Holm.
You have to, and because this is such a big moment, man. This is one as well that I'll say it, a little bit surprised to see the odds here as well, to see how highly respected Kayla was, I guess, considering that she hasn't been in the UFC
website. They do not have odds for this fight up there.
So I'll give you my the one that I always recommend, bestfightodds.com. Again, not affiliated with them in any way, but they list all the different houses there, so they've become a go-to tool for me. But on bestfightodds.com, I'm seeing on DraftKings, their link to them is -410, and I'm seeing as high as -450 to -480 on some of the websites they have listed. That leaves Holly Holm coming back at anywhere from +320 to 360. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised by that. I do understand it to a degree. I think that's a lot of respect for
I don't understand it. I'm going to say this right now, John Morgan. I don't understand that at all. I forgot and forgive me, I forgot. I can look it up in 2 seconds. But Kayla Harrison's last loss, her last fight.
Our last fight was the win over Aspen Ladd in November of last year. And then 1 year previously was, of course, the loss to Larissa Pacheco.
Pacheco, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pacheco sprawled and brawled on her. She didn't get put out in the first. Then she sprawled and brawled. And you know what? That is the recipe. If you can avoid, well, you might not be being able to avoid taking down. Let's say you avoid getting submitted and or just brutalized in that first round. Drag it into a little deeper water. Make that takedown. Make that judo throw a lot harder. Keep your distance. And is there any female in the game better at keeping distance than Holly Holm? I'm going to say there is not.
There's not.
That is a shocking line to me.
It is to me too. Now listen, we are talking about a 42-year-old Holly Holm, right? And time catches up with all men and women, right? Father time, mother time, I guess, you know what I mean? Undefeated. So we are talking about a 42-year-old Holly Holm. We are talking about a 42-year-old Holly Holm that's had a couple of losses in recent memory. Ketlin Vieira, Maida Buena Silva. So I understand. And listen, if you have, and I get it, a lot of people may not have seen Kayla Harrison compete, I think that's one reason this line really surprised me, because I've got to believe a lot of people aren't as well versed on Kayla Harrison just yet. It's just the reality of it, right? The UFC has the biggest audience. Outside of it, less or so. Kayla Harrison's the real deal, I believe. I think a lot of people are looking at this as some kind of test of whether she's as good as she says she is, or whether she really belongs. And I guess as good as she says she is something that you could say is subjective. But I mean, to say that, is she an elite fighter? Does she belong in the UFC? Like, that's silly. She is. She's a 2-time gold medalist. She deserves it based just on that, much less what she's accomplished as a mixed martial artist. So I like her in this. I think she wins this fight. But you're absolutely right. I mean, what do you want? I mean, you laid out what it would take to beat Kayla Harrison, right? And it's exactly what you said. It's exactly the formula that Larissa Pacheco followed. It's exactly the formula the Holly Holm used to upset the vaunted judoka and Ronda Rousey as well. You know what I mean? It'd be a simple. Now, granted, they are not the same fighter, Ronda Rousey and Kayla Harrison, but I think the game plan at the time would be very similar, right? Exactly what you said. Just avoid the takedown. Try to use defensive wrestling. Try to stick and move, and Holly Holm can do that. So I was a little shocked by that line, but I'm excited for this fight because
Holly Holm has to stay off the cage.
Mm-hmm.
She has
absolutely.
To. Okay.
Yep.
But you know what? She can do it because as much the much beloved Holly Holm, the preacher's daughter, everybody loves her. She is not the most exciting fighter to watch.
No.
Right? She's gonna go this way, then circle back this way. And then she's going to lull this fight into, bam, a strike.
Yep.
I'm going to lull the fight into, bam, bam, 2 strikes. Boom, 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 boom. So why is she going like this? Because it makes it very hard to cut her off. It makes her very hard to then pin her against. And then that's where she has the problems, that somebody's going to hold her against the fence or something of that nature. Is Kayla Harrison out the gates? And if it doesn't get ended in the first, is she going to be willing to do it in the first, the second, and the third round? Is she going to be willing to walk through that fire to get that? Because we know as that distance being close, Holly's throwing.
Yep. And let's add this in too, because you said, can't you do it in the second, third? Let's not forget, we know Holly Holm ain't getting tired ever, right? 3 rounds, 5 rounds, 8 rounds, 10 rounds, 20 rounds. She's an insane athlete. She's not getting tired. This is Kayla Harrison that's coming down to 136 pounds, right? So how does her body react to it? Not to say that Kayla Harrison's gas tank has been an issue in the past. I'm not really suggesting that. I'm just saying that we don't know what her gas tank looks like.
It was in the Pacheco fight.
It was. So now you're talking about, cutting down even further. So could this absolutely be over in the first round? Yeah, it could. Kayla Harrison couldn't use elbows in the PFL, right? So she had ground and pound, but couldn't use elbows. Now she can get on top and just
Is that even in the finals? Down. You couldn't use elbows even in the finals?
Correct. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
No elbows at all. So now she can, right? Now she can use those elbows. And so that opens up that way. And look, she's just vicious. I mean, I've had the good fortune of watching her train a little bit outside of her fights down at ATT. the respect that everybody has for her in the gym because of her work ethic and because of her what she does. It's amazing. So she is a phenomenal athlete, and she could absolutely throw Holly Holm on her head, go into side control, hold her down there, and just beat the ever-loving heck out of her, right? She could.
Kayla Harrison, to a degree, is like the male Ben Askren.
That's true. That's a funny way of putting it, but yeah, right? It could, yeah.
But I think with a meaner streak in her.
I was gonna say, I think she's got a little bit meaner streak in her. She's so she could do that. But if she doesn't, this thing gets real interesting when they start back on the feet at round 2. And man, if they start back on the feet in round 3, I mean, you're gonna be holding your breath.
And repeat that formula. Ooh. Can you rinse and repeat it? And then here's the other thing: is that Holly Holm doesn't get taken down a lot. And like, listen, she hasn't gone against a Kayla Harrison, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, right? So we got to throw that out there. Everybody says, well, they haven't fought me. Listen, she hasn't fought in Kayla Harrison. Yeah, she fought a Ronda Rousey who was a lot smaller than Kayla Harrison, the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
But we're forgetting Holly Holm is not a small girl either.
No.
No. I'm going to venture to say, even with the down in the weight, that, and I have nothing to back this up, I haven't looked it up, that Holly Holm is going to be one of, if not the biggest fighters she's gone against, even at a lower weight class.
I would agree with that.
What it is.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. Especially if you're not talking about, I mean, just because the muscle, I mean, what could her body fat percentage be? Like nothing, you know what I mean? Like she's insane athlete, right? That doesn't have the easiest cut either. Insane athlete. So I love this fight. It's another one of those ones where I look at the line and I'm a little surprised by it, but I understand it because Kayla Harrison is that dominant force. She's, again, she's not 42 years old. She's 33. I mean, that's a big difference. So, I mean, I get it. But this is not one of those fights I think you can go, well, automatically know the answer to this one. Know exactly what's going to happen here. And we know what could happen. But Holly Holm can absolutely go in there and shock the world on this. So this one intrigues me. I'm excited for it.
I understand the booking, but yet I don't on one level, right? Because I understand the booking. Okay, let's make Kayla Harrison a star in the UFC.
Right.
She's got the personality for it too. She's going to call her shot whether you like it or not. You better get out of her way because the freight train's coming through. That's her mentality, right? And if she beats a Holly Holm, it's going to give her that platform saying, I beat a former UFC champion. Now it's my time, right? I understand that mentality of why the booking. But this could be, even in victory, a very ho-hum fight just from the way that Holly Holmes fights, especially the older she gets. And so if it does get to that, me and you understand how hard of a fight it would be to fight a Holly Holm type fight. Even if Kayla Harrison goes through this, doesn't get the finish, it could just have a lot of people in completely unjustifiably saying like, oh, that was a boring fight. Like she's not all that was cracked up to be.
You're absolutely right. And, I'm looking at the rankings as you're talking. I'm thinking, well, is there somebody else that would have been a more appropriate matchup? And I don't know if there is from a name value recognition for sure. You know what I mean? Other than that, I mean, the only other thing, and it would serve the former champion as well, as maybe Miesha Tate as well. But, I think right now this was, Holly was probably the one that stuck her hand in the air and said, I'll take that challenge. But you're absolutely right about this because Kayla could win this. I mean, if she just edges out Holly Holm over, the type of fight that looks like a Holly Holm fight. Now, Kayla will tell you, I still think I deserve the title shot. And I'm sure with the money they're paying her, they probably want her to be in a title shot. But it might be one where fans aren't exactly clamoring and going, yeah, you got to get in her. Especially, again, if this is their first exposure to her. Now, the saving side of that might be she's really good on a microphone. You know what I mean? So in the build-up ahead of time and in the build-up afterwards, you know what I mean? Like, she's really, really good. So, maybe she can save it if it happens to be that way. So you're right. This could go really well for Kayla Harrison, or it could, even in victory, it might not go the way you want because it's a tough assignment. So I'm intrigued by this one for a lot of reasons.
I do want to just touch on Calvin Kattar, Aljamain Sterling. I'm very intrigued in this matchup. Aljo going up a weight class, going against a great striker, bigger guy, because and so obviously the human backpack or Jansport, however you want to describe him. I mean, he gets your back. I don't care if it's a division up, 2 divisions up. It's going to be very tough to get out of. But Calvin Kattar is theoretically going to be the bigger guy, right? With the crisper striking. Can you cut off the bigger guy? Because to cut somebody off and to take them down, now you have to get the angle advantage on them, right? You have to start pushing them back. That's a lot of people just look at fights in one way. Hey, can this person knock out this person? Can this person submit this person? I think we look at it is like, how are you going to get the path to get there? Right. And you're gonna he had a hard time with that reach advantage. And I don't know the right in front of me. I'm sure you could pick up what can you tell me the size of these two guys, the reach of these two guys?
Yeah, I was actually looking at that. So it's pretty interesting. So 5'11" to 5'7" for Calvin Kattar. So 4 inches taller. On paper, the reach is only an inch difference, 72 to 71 inches. So, but the size is different there, and the movement and the way that Calvin fights, right? I mean, he's kind of that boxing first, quick footwork. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Different than Aljamain Sterling. So on paper, it doesn't look like a lot, but I have a feeling it's going to feel different than that when they're in there.
And so my whole point in that is, like Aljamain Sterling, he's gonna shoot in, but it's gonna have to be from distance. He's gonna have to get you, probably the bigger guy. He's gonna have to get you against the cage to take you down. And when he gets you against the cage, he's even has a way to take your back on the cage, right? But to get to that point, especially with a boxer first, he's taking the center of the cage, right? So with that, are you going to be able to push the bigger man back to then work your angles to cut him off, to get him to the cage, to then be able to do that? The fight within the fight is the fight.
Yeah, 100%. I'll throw some extra stats at you to help kind of paint the picture a little bit. Calvin Kattar, 91% takedown defense. So, I mean, it's not exactly like he's easy to take down. I've got to imagine the game plan will be to not throw any kicks whatsoever, right? I mean, he likes to strike anyway. Think of him primarily as a boxer anyway, but I imagine you're not going to throw the leg out. Why would you not want to throw out kicks? Of course, as you know, when you throw kicks, that obviously offers something to grab onto for a grappler to try to initiate those exchanges. And we think about Aljamain, that's what's so great about his style, right? You don't necessarily think of him as like, hey, he's going to blast W or he's going to get in on the single and run the pipe. It's these scrambles and these exchanges where he's really, really good. So, he's going to want to try to create those. So this is going to be a tough one, man. I do think Aljamain Sterling is a guy that isn't necessarily going to be, I wouldn't say undersized or undermanned at 145 pounds. I think his weight cuts had just gotten really,
his
really,
frame
really
is
difficult.
Huge. His height, not necessarily, but his frame is huge. If you stood next to the guy, you're like 135. Are you crazy?
It's insane. So I don't feel like he'll be outgunned here in terms of the power department. But it's not going to be easy, right? Again, this is a guy with slick boxing, good takedown defense, and a good team around him that's going to game plan specifically for Aljamain. So very, very intriguing fight as well. And again,
or a pick
on the prelims. A pick 'em. Yeah, and exactly. And I think that is a very accurate assessment, right, of this fight.
Yeah, I do as well. All right, we'll kind of switch over, kind of jump over, the number 2 versus number 5 ranked light heavyweight, just for time. We'll skip over that fight.
That's the kind of card this is. You can just move past Prochazka and Rakic. It's crazy.
All right, it's Bo Nickal keeping his pay-per-view main card streak alive to much dismay of a lot of people. I don't know. I want to see him on the main card just because I want to see this guy become a superstar because he has all the intangibles to be that next guy. I mean, give me a break. He's even going after right now the GOAT of GOATs in wrestling in Jordan Burroughs, right? He's like picking fights everywhere, right? He's saying, I'll take on, Cosmot. I'll take on whoever. Oh, yeah, Jordan Burroughs, you want this smoke too? I mean, come on. Like, even if you don't like the guy, how can you not like the guy?
The guy just thinks as big as possible. You know what I mean? From the very beginning, as you said, he was saying, we were talking to him in Las Vegas and, like day one. And he's like, man, I think I see it down the road. He's like, I saw Allegiant Stadium over there. And I was just thinking me and Khamzat Chimaev for the belt inside Allegiant Stadium. It's like, bro, you're on the Contender Series right now, but that's how big he thinks. And he has the right, like he's earned the right to think that big based on his wrestling credentials. And his MMA credentials are building pretty quick as well. I love this spot too. You saw, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. A lot of people, as you said, to much people's dismay, some people are like, I can't believe they're putting this guy it's no disrespect to anybody else on the card. This dude is big business, right? I mean, they see the star quality, the star potential in him. I love the fact that they're putting him in here. He welcomes it, right? I mean, he's like, dude,
a microphone in his hand.
100%. They want a mic in his hand. The man can talk. He's fun. He's a great talent. Cody Brundage, I mean, he's in a tough spot here. Cody Brundage, much respect. I mean, I've been telling the story all along. I just laughed at his tweet that came out when they announced that this fight was on the main card, and he was just like, y'all MFers know I just work here, right? You know what I mean? Because people are saying like they don't deserve to be here. But look, Cody Brundage, man, he battled through 3 straight losses. He's got himself back with a couple of wins. He understands, you know, that this is not he's not the favorite by any stretch. I mean, the odds on this are obscene. I mean, it's some of the craziest odds you've ever seen in your life.
Mine is 1350 on UFC.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that is
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's insane. It's one of the biggest odds we've ever seen. So poor Cody Brundage understands everybody's counting him out, but that's what you do. You come in and you say, hey, I'll take the fight. I mean, are there a lot of paths to victory? No, it's really tough, but you know, this is, hey, it's an MMA fight and anything can happen, but yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, and you hate to be disrespectful. It's just like, man, a lot of people feel like
UFC. Like, we all get it. He's still the 1% of fighters in this world. No disrespect.
Legit could clear out any bar in America today. You know what I mean? Like, could beat anybody listening to this right now that is not also in the UFC. I assure you, he can beat your ass. You know what I mean? Like, still that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great fight. I love the card placement here. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. Let's make Bo Nickal a star. How do we make him a star? You put him on the main card of arguably the biggest card that the UFC has ever put on. The formula ain't hard to figure out, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope. Put him in front of the eyeballs and let the man perform.
All right, moving on. Second fight of the pay-per-view main card from T-Mobile Arena this Saturday, April 13th. The fight, I think that, like, I know the BMF belt goes next. This is my BMF fight. This fight is probably, if I said, I don't know which one I'm most excited about because they're all great, I take that back. This fight is the one I am most excited about. Charles Oliveira, the number 1 contender in the lightweight division, takes on Arman Tsarukyan, the number 4 ranked fighter in the lightweight division in the UFC. The number 4 ranked fighter, Tsarukyan, is a minus 205. Put some respect on Oliveira. Arman Tsarukyan, minus 205 favorite over the former champ and the guy who really didn't need to take this fight.
Right.
He could have been waiting for Islam.
Yep.
But Tsarukyan is a minus 205 favorite in this fight. This is the fight I'm looking forward to.
I'm with you on that one. You know, it's funny because we'll talk about the BMF bout as next. There's no way you're a fan of fighting and you're not, you know, excited for that one because it's a great fight. But this, to me, on paper, might be even a step above that. A little surprised by the odds as well, if I'm being 100% honest with you. And it's funny because, I mean, I know you and I have both been very, very high on Arman Tsarukyan for a long time, right? And so on the one hand, it's kind of nice to see that respect. I think that everybody's catching up, right? The hardcore saw it from the very beginning. I mean, the hardcore saw it from the moment he stepped in his debut, right? And it goes against Islam Makhachev on short notice.
Welcome to the UFC.
Insane, right? What a debut. And we were like, wow, that dude took Islam. And I think at that point, a lot of people didn't know who Islam was. Mm-hmm. And so you had to be a hardcore of a hardcore to know, you know what I mean? But so, I mean, that guy has impressed me for me. So on the one hand, I'm really glad to see everybody kind of catching up and giving this guy his due. But yeah, it seems wild to yeah, I mean, I hate to say a wagering line is disrespect. I mean, we know what it's about. It's about the money that's being placed on it. But yeah, it almost feels like we're just writing Charles Oliveira off. You know what I mean?
But
Charles
he did ice Dariush in 1 minute.
Insane,
who does
right?
that?
It's crazy, man. So it's weird to count him out like that. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's kind of being done here because Charles Oliveira, phenomenal striking. I would venture to say the better striker than Arman Tsarukyan. Arman maybe not better, but maybe more dynamic would be the right word, right? Arman Tsarukyan is kind of a little bit more compact and straightforward in his approach, where Oliveira brings a little bit of everything, given the lengthy frame. He's got the knees, he's got elbows, he's got all that. And his grappling is phenomenal. I mean, the one thing I always say about Charles Oliveira that I think makes him so dangerous is that, like, there's a lot of guys that are really good at, like, a submission, right? They've got, like, one their go-to. You know how it is, whether it's somebody in a competition or somebody in the training room, you're like, man, if you go with that guy, you just got to watch this. They got that go-to that, man, you don't want to get caught in that because they can nail it. They got all the setups for it. He's got every submission. You know what I mean? Like, the dude can hit anything.
This much space.
It's insane. And when you think about Arman Tsarukyan, right, you think about the fact that he's got great grappling, great top position, you know, that kind of that heavy wrestling pressure style, which, I mean, is very effective, but against a guy that can catch you, that can be losing, that can be giving away rounds, but as you said, then gets that one moment presented to himself and snatches it up. Man, it's crazy because I am so high on Arman Tsarukyan as a potential future champion and just, you know, somebody that is going to be making waves for a long time. I mean, how about the guy, you know, 27 years old, just really starting to enter his athletic prime, looks like the real deal. Again, fought Islam Makhachev in his debut. Oliveira a little longer in the tooth now at 34 years old, but we've watched the kid grow up in front of our eyes in the UFC.
He's gotten better his whole career.
And he's gotten better the whole time. So this is one as well where, like, you know, I always hate to say, like, you know, sometimes you say, well, you see value in an underdog, right? But if you just see value, we don't really see a path to victory, then is there really value there? But this is one that it feels like there is value. I mean, I can get plus money on Charles Oliveira, like, wow, against anybody. That's amazing.
Okay, we've seen now. Okay, you take the Dariush win, compounded with the fact I see how. Still minus 200 is crazy to me, right? So let's take that. But I see how he's the favorite, right?
Right.
Just because, you know, the lightning fast, great strikes, great grappling, right? So you take his last fight against Dariush, who everybody was like, hey, let's not mistake this, but Oliveira beat him as well. Okay, sure. So like, it's not outlandish to say, so it is outlandish for it to be that wide, in my opinion. A little disrespectful. But the thing that I think a lot of the odds makers and people look at it is Oliveira does get sat down here and there on punches, right?
Yep.
But I think he's like, okay, I didn't like that shot. I'm going to sit down. Let's invite it here now. Like, look no further. And I'm not saying he's intentionally going down, but what I'm not saying is he's not fighting every urge and impulse to stay on his feet to then slug it out. That's what I am saying, right?
Yeah, it's funny because you say he is definitely knows exactly what he's doing, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's not just sitting down just for the sake of sitting down, but he gets it. Like, oh, well, if I fall, I fall. Like, let him come this way.
Yeah. Ask Dustin how that worked out for him.
It's crazy, man. You know, so I like to see the implied odds, right? My man Dan Stupp, back in the MMA Junkie days, was the one that used to start sharing this with me. And it's, you know, using that money line to see what the implied odds are. And at minus 205, that implies that Arman Tsarukyan should win 67% of the time. And Charles Oliveira should only win 33% of the time. I don't know, man. This feels more like a 50-50 fight to me. You know what I mean? Maybe 55-45. I mean, 60-40 maybe. I don't know.
Champ.
I know, right? It's amazing.
It's not that long ago. He went on this gargantuan run only to lose to Islam and then never got that shot back again. Guess what? Went through Dariush, went through some other people to get that shot back. Could have been waiting. Takes this fight. There's a lot of disrespectful lines out there, and I'm not saying it's not accurate, right? Because we're not Vegas odd makers. We're pretty good at talking fights, right?
Yep.
But I'm like, dude, you're disrespecting at a minus 200 a guy who didn't need to take this fight. Could be waiting for that next title shot. Now, even if he wins, he's not getting the next title shot because of the timing of everything that works out. And we're making him a dog at this big of a clip.
It's crazy, man. And again, it's one of those things too, like, you know, it'd be one thing to just say, this man's a former champion, look who he's beat, and we're talking about pedigree, right? But as you said earlier, and it's a cliche, but it's true, styles make fights, right? So number one, he has the pedigree, but number two, he has the style to win. You know what I mean? So this one shocked me a little bit, and it's a fight, and all to build to the fact that, you know, we say it all the time, right? My favorite fights are the ones I look at and I just go, can totally see this happening, but I can also totally see this happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Those are my favorite fights, right? And that's the way I look at this fight. It's like, yeah, I can see Arman continuing to do what he does. But I can also see Charles playing spoiler and pulling off something special here because he's that guy capable of doing those things. So I'm loving
When I
this
can
fight.
see Arman sitting him down, jumping on top, raining down some punches. Guess what? Gave up one quick little underhook. He's on his back. That choke is in, and everybody goes, "What just happened?"
What? And he's frustrated. Oh, I love it.
I can see that happening very easily here.
100%. Love this fight.
Love it. This is my fight. But guess what? We're going to the BMF. The BMF title is on the line. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. Max coming up in weight. Lightweight bout, 155. Justin Gaethje, the number 2 ranked fighter in the division. Max Holloway, number 2 ranked fighter in his division. Justin Gaethje, this is a very accurate line, in my opinion, minus 238. Actually, I would put it a little bit higher. Doesn't make it any less fun of a fight for me to see, but I actually would put Justin in the, probably low 3s here, just because of the power that the guy has. And Max, for claiming he's the best boxer in the UFC, and there's no reason for me to say he's not. He is a great boxer. He does get touched a lot in fights.
Yeah, he does. And what a great, is that not one of the all-time classic clips? He's looking away, hitting shots and saying I'm the best boxer in the U.S. Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
That's the Calvin Kattar fight, right?
Poor Calvin Kattar being on the wrong end of that, man. That's terrible. But no, I love this fight as well. It's hard not to favor Justin Gaethje. We talked about this in the build-up from the time it was announced. There's no way you're a fight fan and not excited for this fight. Stylistically, I don't believe anybody's going to be shooting a takedown. I believe they're going to be standing and trading. But we are talking about, Max Holloway moving up a division. We are talking about Justin Gaethje, who is one of the most destructive forces in all of the sport today. And you touched on it. As great as Max Holloway is, as durable as he is, he gets hit. I just don't know that you can get hit against Justin Gaethje and survive it. He's just a different kind of guy. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody game plans of hey, let's just go in there and I believe I can take his best shot and we'll just walk through it and wait till he gets tired. You know what I mean? You just don't do that. So this is a tough one, man. This is a tough one for Max Holloway. Obviously he's got knockout power as well. He can land. He does have slick boxing. Maybe he could catch, Gaethje has those nasty leg kicks. Maybe you throw something over the top of that and it scores. So that, I'm not writing Max Holloway off, because if there's anybody that you're like, does somebody have the heart and the warrior spirit to be damaged and to just keep moving forward? His leg could get destroyed and he'll switch stance, and that leg could get destroyed and he'll start crawling towards you. You know what I mean? He's not giving up until he's unconscious. So he's got everything that it takes from the inside to try to get this done. It's just hard to pick against Justin Gaethje, especially in what you would expect to be a striking battle, right? If this was a situation where maybe Gaethje for some reason had decided he wanted to go down to 45, then maybe you start going, well, does the power translate? Is he lessened or whatever? But it's not. It's Max Holloway moving up. So I love Max Holloway. You will never hear a bad word out of my mouth about Max Holloway as a fighter, as a human being, anything. He is a legend of the sport in and out of the cage. This is just a tough assignment, man. Justin Gaethje is that dude.
He's a career changer too. We've talked about it. We've gone through the names, right, of people he's just Donald Cerrone never, I don't even think, won a fight after fighting Justin Gaethje, right? Crazy. James Vick, same thing. Who is it?
Tony Ferguson.
Look no further than Tony Ferguson, right?
Yep.
This is why, as excited as I am to see it, because as you are, I am as well, a first-class passenger on the Blessed Express.
Right.
This fight worries me for where Max Holloway goes, because guess what? Max ain't going to be dancing around on the outside and circling and circling and circling. He's not. You can't change that Hawaiian blood in him. You just can't. He's going to think he's going to be able to do this, roll, counter strike, counter back. But Justin Gaethje is relentless in the way he attacks things. He is now with his coach, Trevor Whitman's. Now he has put that just ferocious nature with so much better technique behind it. As excited as just the name Holloway, Gaethje on the marquee. I'm so excited for that. I'm worried about this, and no disrespect to Max Holloway, because this guy's a warrior. He's going to fight anybody, but I don't want him standing in the pocket with Justin Gaethje. I just don't.
So first of all, I'll give you since we've been throwing some stats out there, one that'll maybe not surprise you, but it's just shocking to remember that Max Holloway is actually the younger man at 32 versus 35. But he came in as a teenager to the UFC, which is amazing. But you're right. It almost feels like you're talking bad about Max Holloway when you say I'm worried for him, but that's just how destructive Justin Gaethje is. And again,
he's going up in weight. Like, of course, you're going to be worried for always the smaller guy.
Always. And it doesn't matter who the guy is. Now, and what's funny about it is like, if somebody pulled you aside and said, Eric, listen, man, don't tell this to anybody, but our game plan with Max, we put it together and we're just grappling, bro. We're not going to try to strike at all. Like, we think we got the wrestling advantage. We're going to create some scrambles and we're going jiu-jitsu all the way. You know what I mean? You might be like, all right, like I want to see that. But that's not Max Holloway. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know that even if they were in the room and they were like, hey, Max, we got this thought, man. We think it might be easier. The path of least resistance might be if we try to take this thing to the ground and grapple. He's gonna laugh at you. Like, no, bro, that's not what we're doing. Like, we're this is a scrap, and we're coming to scrap. You know what I mean? That's just who Max Holloway is, and that's why the fans love him. And man, the place is gonna be on their feet. If this thing lasts 60 seconds or it goes a full 15 minutes, I guarantee you T-Mobile Arena is going to be electric and on their feet. And whatever happens in this fight, it's only going to add to the legend of Max Holloway, because he is a true G, man. I mean, there's no way you're a fan of the sport and not a fan of Max Holloway, but I echo the same sentiments. It's no disrespect. It's just that Gaethje, again, he's that guy. He's that guy.
Who do you think has more power, Dustin Poirier or Gaethje?
I think Gaethje. I think
Poirier,
Gaethje.
What, 3 years ago? It was about 3 years ago. Every time Poirier hit Max, he hurt him.
Yep.
Every time. Now, that's how damn tough Max Holloway was. He didn't get finished there.
Yeah. It's amazing, man.
But Justin Gaethje hits harder.
And he's got the leg kicks as well, right? You know what I mean? He's got the nasty leg kicks as well. So I just, Max Holloway's tough. He's durable. He's built for this. He's built for this, but it's
I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, I guarantee you in Max's head, he goes, they offered it. I don't have a choice. I'm built this way. I have to do it. I can't turn down a fight. He probably wouldn't be able to live with himself the rest of his life if he's like, nah, that's probably not a smart matchup for me.
100%. It's going to be a car crash out there. It's going to be multiple car crashes over and over. Holloway can survive it, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
All right. China is invading Las Vegas this weekend. Weili versus Xiaonan. I did pretty good. I was practicing.
Well done, sir.
Yeah. So I don't have the odds on this fight. Can you share?
Absolutely can share this one as well. I am seeing reminder that one's out there too. I'm seeing anywhere minus 450, minus 500 for Zhang Weili, plus 340 to plus 380 on the comeback for Xiaonan.
Listen, interesting that this is the co-main event on UFC 300. Is that a little like, I'm not going to, like, listen, I understand women title fight, it can't be disrespected and put down the card. I get it. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about this fight. I'm kind of, unfortunately, you know what I mean?
No. And listen, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, I think the line kind of indicates how most people feel about it. And it's no disrespect to Xiaonan, because she's actually a very, very exciting fighter. But it's just, when you think about her path to victory, it's like, go stand toe-to-toe with Zhang Weili? Because that's Xiaonan's style as well, right? Like, she's kind of a marauding striker. But then you're like, yeah, but, Zhang Weili, like, who was the second best knockout artist in Mike Tyson's prime? You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, I mean, you're really good, but you know what I mean? And so I think that's the reason people are a little bit maybe underwhelmed by this, is it just doesn't seem to be a lot of path to victory, because Xiaonan is dangerous. She's aggressive. I think she's very fun to watch fight. It's just that, man, Zhang Weili is just a step better in that department. And Zhang Weili is showing that she's rounding out her game. She's got the grappling as well. Might not be surprised to see her, hey, maybe some of these exchanges aren't as fun as I need them to be. Let's just take this fight to the ground, because I'm pretty sure I can dominate it there. So, but I think you said it right. I mean, the way that it's lined up, I think, if you put Gaethje and Holloway and you say, well, it's a BMF title, so we put it in front as the co-main event, I think you might have people stand up being like, yeah, but aren't you kind of disrespecting the women there? I mean, theirs is an actual undisputed title. You know, I think if the UFC had their way, ideally, this fight would have been a headliner in China. But you know, they can't get over to China right now, so that you can't do it there. I mean, this would have been huge. I actually, you know, when this first came out, I actually said the crazy thing, like, I think you should put this thing on the prelims because of the time difference. And as crazy as that would be, I mean, it is UFC 300, do something weird, let it be in more of a better time for the Chinese people to watch. You know, this is going to be the fight that people are talking about least, and it's the fight that I think, you know, for a title fight, I think most people are feeling Zhang Weili. But, you know, it is championship on the line, and it is an opportunity for Xiaonan to change her life.
All right. As Bruce Buffer would said, it's time for the main event of the evening. That never gets old, does it?
It doesn't. No matter how many times you have it. I mean, being there, and especially at pay-per-views, man, the light goes down, and I mean the cue is just on, and Buffer's the man. It still gets excited. It still gives you chills.
It's kind of funny, right? I've been there as an official on a few occasions now. And I've never been the main event, so I'm usually just kind of sitting outside the cage side, and I catch myself going with him.
Yeah.
It's time. Like, yeah, as an official, I catch myself on the outside doing that, which is so awesome. But champion Alex Pereira versus former champion, never lost his strap, Jamahal Hill, champion coming in at -155 favorite. Plus 130 on the comeback, Jamahal Hill. I think we talked offline that I'm shocked by this line. I just think that listen, Pereira is a big guy. Jamahal Hill is a big guy.
Big guy.
Right? Guy. So I don't know where to go. It really, to my head, like the fluidity, you know, and he's coming out and saying, I'm knocking this guy out. Jamahal Hill is saying, I'm knocking him out. Like, I don't know what all this talk is about. I'm knocking him out, right? Pereira's been knocked out. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't know who's going to win this fight. This is one of those fights to me that I go, interesting. Does Jamahal Hill stay on the outside, batter him up from range? Because Alex Pereira, I know he's got the leg kicks, and that's his number one weapon, right? Mm-hmm. But he fights for a big guy, and historically at a big guy at 85. As a big guy, he fights in close, and he fights in a more clubbing manner. Boom, 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 where Jamahal Hill ain't going to fight that way. He's going to fight on that outside. Pop, pop. You know, look what he did to, you know, I guess everybody on his come up. Everybody. He fought everybody the same way, right? He's on the outside, in that length and that snap, and those thuds are coming from a lot of range. So Pereira is really going to have to get in the danger zone and live there.
It's interesting because I think, you know, the line, I understand. I think it's Alex Pereira has become kind of a fan favorite, right? Where Jamahal Hill has been on the sidelines. And so, exactly. I mean, that has become the feature, right? I mean, everybody loves it. By the way, though, if you want a good laugh, definitely go follow Jamahal Hill on social media. That dude is hilarious on social media. But, you know, you laid it out there, man. You look at, you know, I'm looking at the stats here. Both of them 6'4" tall. Both of them 79-inch reach, right? I mean, they've got the same reach. The leg reach. Alex Pereira just 44 to 43 and a half inch there. Then you look at the significant strikes, because you think about Alex Pereira, you think the power, right? You don't think about necessarily the volume. Alex's 5 average landed strikes per minute, but Jamahal Hill 7.31. You know, so I mean, it's. I feel like the line might be accurate in terms of how people feel about it in their hearts, but I don't know if it's accurate in terms of on paper. You know what I mean? I think people are a little quick to write off Jamahal Hill. And I get it, man. I understand. You know, maybe you want to say, look, you know, the guys that he went through. I mean, his run to the title after he lost to Paul Craig, Jimmy Crute, Johnny Walker, Thiago Santos, Glover Teixeira, you know, all guys that, you know, maybe Jimmy Crute, obviously, you know, still very much on the plus side of it. Johnny Walker, maybe on the downside. Thiago Santos, Glover Teixeira, Glover's retired after that, of course. Meanwhile, Alex Pereira, Yuri Prochazka, Jan Blachowicz, Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland, which that win always looks better in the rearview mirror than it did at the time even. So I get it. But I think you're doing a very good job of taking like, hey, let's take all that out of the equation. Let's take out reputations. Let's take out, who we like as a figure, and let's just look at the styles and the abilities and what is it. And I think this is an incredibly competitive matchup. And look, it's a fight that, as we said all along, people have said, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it. And I guess I understand. It was a late addition to the card. It wasn't announced, as the initial headliner. So anticipation built up. And, it's in a division where, nobody's defended that belt in years because of all the weird situations with injuries and these things that happen, So I don't think anybody necessarily respects somebody as a longstanding champion. And so I get it. I understand for all those reasons. But to me, we've just gone through this card, which is unbelievable. But looking at this fight specifically, I think it's very, very, very competitive. And if you're writing off Jamahal Hill, you're doing it at your own risk. I guess maybe there is some concern about, is he 100%? And I think that's a very, a fair, thing to ask. You know what I mean? Has he had enough time to recover properly from a pretty devastating injury? But he says he has. And I don't think he would rush back to take the opportunity. This is a competitive matchup, and I like it a lot. I think it's a great fight.
He sounds ultra confident. That for one thing, but he always has, right? And I truly believe that there's a bias of a non-respect bias for people coming off of the Contender Series. I still think it's kind of like the way a lot of people viewed, maybe 10 years ago, people coming off the Ultimate Fighter. It's like, that's that next tier. They're not there. But let's be honest, the way the UFC is now with their strategy of building contenders is they're not just giving out a contract to a top dog. They're making them come through because they want to build that up. They want that name value to translate other than just like, hey, here's some killer on the regional scene. He's going to be a champion someday. Like, that's not anymore. They're making him go through the Contender Series. So,
that's right.
But I truly believe that people look at the Contender Series as like, oh, they're not there yet. Maybe in 5, 6, 7 years. But no, Jamahal Hill, 4 or 5 fights, he was there, right?
Yep.
So I think that's one of the things that people look at Jamahal Hill as the record that you went through. But would you agree with me that Pereira, even though their stats are all the same, he does have to close the distance on him just by the nature in which he fights?
100%. It's the style. It's the way he throws. And it's the fact that, he's trying to land that one big shot. And so absolutely. Yeah, he's going to have to. And that might be tough because Jamahal Hill, again, if he's at 100% mobility, right? You know what I mean? If that's not an issue, like what if there's a mobility issue, then all of a sudden the tide changed. So I'm going to work under the assumption that they're at 100% or they wouldn't be, or as close as you can be to 100% going into a fight, but at least not, a lingering severe injury. So I'm going to assume the mobility is going to be 100% there for Hill. And if so, that can make it tough for Alex Pereira. Now, if it turns out that it's not, that shifts the tide tremendously, but 100%, that's the way he fights. That's what he does.
And he has a unique ability to close that distance and push everybody backwards. Like it's crazy. I haven't seen him fight where he hasn't in the first 10 seconds started the other person on their back foot. It's just, he just pokey straight into your face.
It's so true, but it's funny. It's silly, but it's true. It's like, you like to do his walk-in thing with the bow and arrow, and it's so awesome, right? But there's a reason he's firing one arrow, right? He doesn't come out and fire off an AK-47, right? Because that's not what he does, right? He's not coming out there trying to just rapid fire stuff and hopefully hit the combination together. It's that one shot, one kill mentality and one shot, one kill ability. So, I'm intrigued by this one. And man, I mean, obviously, look, Pereira, I think he's already a huge star. I mean, you think about the cards that he's headlined and the storyline with Adesanya is amazing, and being here at 300, and it's amazing, what a star he's become, not even really speaking English, right? But people absolutely love him. But man, if Jamahal Hill wins this fight, I cannot wait to hear the trash that man talks moving forward, right? Because he hears it, right? He feels it. He knows that people are doubting him. You know what I mean? And the line, look, for all the talk about the betting line, there really is, we talked about a lot of disrespectful betting lines today. That's actually not a real disrespectful line. It's actually giving him a lot of respect in there, even having him at the underdog. But I think, you talk to people, and a lot of people are writing him off and counting him out. And I think he sees that and he feels that. And I think he would love nothing more than to just shut the world up and show them like, hey, man, the belt I won is real. And I am a legitimate champion, and this will prove it. If he wins this fight, come on, man. You can't doubt him. You can't take anything away from him. You can't say anything. There are no asterisks next to his title reign.
And I don't think anybody's shooting for a takedown. Just going to say that.
Nope. Nope. These two are going at it. It should be fun. And then this is cool because, the number one contender, unless there's something that happens that they got to run it back for some reason, the number one contender will likely have already been decided earlier in the night with Prochazka and Rakic. So, they'll have a challenger in waiting ready to go. So, good time. So, somebody's going to have ability to maybe start building some legacy at 205. We talked about this hot potato championship belt that just keeps, hopping around a little bit. Maybe somebody can start a little title run at 205.
Yeah. I don't know how this fight's going to go. I in as much as like when Pereira walks out, I'm going to be yelling, baby, come here. You got to watch the walkout. You got to watch this. I can't. I just love watching the guy fight. I'm super fan number one.
Yep.
I don't know why in my head I'm just leaning to Jamahal Hill from the styles that they both have.
I love it. I think you're looking at it from a very smart point of view, and actually just, as I said, using the styles to break it down, not the resume, not the popularity, but actually the styles and how they match up with one another. And that's going to be interesting, man. I cannot wait for it.
Yeah. Conveniently, John Morgan didn't lean one way or another because he's saving that for next week, saying, yeah, I always lean this way. I just wasn't going to say.
Nah, you know what? To be honest, if I'm leaning away, I actually lean towards Alex Pereira, but you make a really good case as to why Jamal. And it's just because, the big fights that Alex has had and the big moments he's had, and this will be by far the biggest moment of Jamal's career. And so, is he ready for it? But the thing is, I don't want to lay into more of that talk that he doesn't have a chance here, because I think he does. I thought the line was going to be more of a pick 'em, to be honest with you, because I really think it's that kind of a fight on paper. But
there's so much unknown heading into this.
That's it. You know what I mean? So that's why I kind of lean. But this is not a fight that I look at and be like, this. I feel firmly in it because of the unknowns, because of the intangibles, and so because of the unknowns, intangibles, I kind of lean towards Alex. If I'm being honest with you, but I think Jamal has every bit of it, and there's part of me that just wants to see Jamal win it as a fan, just because I like the guy and I think he's been kind of doubted, and I know what he's gone through. And I mean, that video when he broke the news of that he was having to give up the belt. I mean, how does that not touch you as a human being, man? I love the fact, A, that his cameraman kept rolling on it, and B, that they decided that it was okay to leave it in there, right? Because he basically gets done delivering the message that he's hurt and he's giving up the belt, and he'll be back. And then after he's done delivering the message, he just drops his head and he's like battling back tears, man. I mean, you work your whole life to get to a point, and then it's taken away from you in an instant in a pickup basketball game of all things. You know what I mean? Like, not even like training for a fight, but just having fun because you want to go out there and do it. And so there's a big part of me that as a human being just wants to see this dude battle back and have this moment and silence everybody and just say, I told you I was real. Why did you doubt me? So I'd love to see that for him. But because of those intangibles, because of those unknowns, because of the danger that Alex provides, I kind of lean in that direction. But it's another one of these fights that, again, when I can really see both possibilities happening, that's when I get excited about stuff. You know what I mean? So it's amazing. It's amazing. I can't wait. Cannot wait.
I can tell you we are both excited for is Alex Pereira standing in his corner in that octagon, just deadpanning.
Love it. Just stone
How did
face.
a guy get so over doing nothing?
Doing nothing, right? And then embraces like the Easter Island statue memes and stuff like that. I mean, it's amazing, man. I love it.
I can't wait for that stare down. It's not even a stare down, just across the cage, the intros. It's like, Alex, you got to walk around, get those muscles loose, man. You got to loosen up a bit.
No, I'm good. I'm just gonna stand here, just stone cold. I'm good. I'm fine.
I'm so fired up for that. That's like,
man.
Oh man.
As Buffer's doing his thing, man. Oh, come on, man. Cannot wait for it.
Say, I got chills.
Oh, can't wait for it, man.
Man, all righty. Well, I know what you got on tap this weekend is 300, but the night before you're going to be in Atlantic City, CFFC, the biggest card they've ever had. If you guys want to see the stars of tomorrow, and I kid you not, the stars of tomorrow, tune in UFC Fight Pass Friday night, Atlantic City. Give us a showcase of what we can expect.
I love it. 3 title fights. We initially had 4 title fights. Unfortunately, I hate to say, one of our challengers, Frank Wells, had to withdraw, but his opponent, who was going to fight for a title and who looks very much like somebody that might be on the Contender Series this summer, Anthony DeLime, he's got a new opponent lined up, so he's still going to compete, but we still have 3 championship matchups. And as you said, it's the best card CFFC has ever put together. Like, sometimes I hate speaking in totalitarian type stuff, in total, because I have no problem saying this is the best card CFFC has ever put together, from the prelims all the way to the main event. It's going to be phenomenal.
Kevin Peace even on the main card.
Kevin Peace, who is high potential, is on the prelims. I mean,
and Kevin Peace, I'm telling you, if he wins this fight, he's probably getting Contender Series this summer. He's that good. You don't want him on top of you. He is not on the main card.
Believe that, man. This is unbelievable, man. It's at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. It's an amazing venue. I'm hearing the tickets are just about gone. So if you're in the area and you want to go, snatch them up quick. Don't wait till the day of. I don't know if there's going to be able to any walk-up tickets at all available to it. But if you can't make it in, watch it on UFC Fight Pass. And yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm doing.
How can we watch the prelims?
Still to be TBD, but keep an eye on UFC Fight Pass, because I heard a rumor that there's a possibility that those prelims are so good that they might want to show them there. If not, it'll be exclusively on OnlyFans, but I heard there's a real possibility that might end up on Fight Pass as well.
I heard that as well. I don't know where I heard it. I think it may have been from some fighter's social media or I don't know. Was it yours?
I don't know. Maybe. Like I said, those rumors are getting around. I'm not the decision maker, so I don't know if ink has been signed on contract.
Morgan makes all the calls around here.
But I heard they may be on Fight Pass, which I'd love to see. So keep an eye on it. But dude, it's going to be a great card. I'm so excited, man. And and look, and then I come back and I'm actually going to be working with the Extra Rounds people at UFC. We're going to be doing on Fight Pass as well, a 2-hour preview show of UFC 300 as well from T-Mobile Arena.
Don't worry, man, I'm busy. You don't have to ask.
I'm excited, my man. I cannot wait. Back-to-back nights, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, my wife is going to be so pissed off at me Saturday night.
Yep.
4:59 Central Time. I'm sitting my ass on the couch, and she's going to be like, "Help me get the kids to bed." I'm working.
Nice.
Working.
Very important work assignments here. This is I'm putting food on the table, man.
Oh man, it's gonna be awesome. You knuckleheads out there saying it ain't a great card. Don't get me riled up right now, John Morgan.
Hey, if you think it sucks, don't watch it then. How about that? Because you're gonna watch it. Come on, you gotta watch it.
Well, UFC 300 going down this Saturday night. The T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here for it. He will be there for it. For John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.